Singapore's population has dipped for the first time since the year 2003. That was when the country was grappling with another health crisis, SARS. Now, according to the National Population and Talent Division's annual report, the latest drop is largely driven by a fall in the number of foreigners as COVID-19 weakened demand and led to travel restrictions. Vanessa Lim with more.
For nearly 12 years, Singapore was a second home for Liang Bing. It's where the 27-year-old went to school and worked for 3 years after graduation. But last month, she packed her bags and returned to China due to growing concerns from her family over the ongoing pandemic.
My family felt that it was not very safe for me to continue to work alone in Singapore. And they felt that when the global economy goes down, it may be not very secure for me to work in Singapore either. So they felt that maybe it's time for me to stay with them, at least during this very hard time.
Ms. Liang isn't the only one. Latest figures show that the number of foreigners in Singapore dropped by 2.1% to 1.64 million compared to last year. This is largely due to a fall in foreign employment in the services sector. Among foreign workers, the number of work permit holders saw the biggest drop. There were around 940,000 work permit holders as of June. That's down from about 1 million in December last year. Numbers of foreign mid-level workers and PMEs who hold employment passes or S-passes also declined. This led to a drop in Singapore's total population for the first time in 17 years. As of June, overall population stands at 5.69 million, a 0.3% drop from about 5.7 million last year. But one expert says the dip is just a blip and expects numbers to go back up after the pandemic.
What we should be concerned about is the extent to which losing this particular labor force means the loss of particular skills or capabilities to the economy in Singapore. If, for example, we have a very sharp recovery in demand, then we will need actually the labor force to expand quickly. And that's when I think our ability to attract back the workers will be quite critical.
The permanent resident population also dipped slightly, but the number of citizens edged up to 3.52 million as of June, from 3.5 million a year ago, due to births and immigration. Singaporeans had more babies last year compared to the year before, but the number of marriages involving at least one citizen fell over the same period.
At the same time, the number of Singaporeans overseas has fallen to an 8-year low as citizens returned home amid the COVID-19 pandemic. There were 203,500 Singaporeans abroad as of June, compared to over 217,000 last year. In the 5 years from 2010, the total number of overseas Singaporeans surged from 184,000 to 212,000. Those in the working ages of 20 to 64 formed the bulk of them. The population abroad remained relatively stable from 2015 to 2019, hovering between 215,000 and 217,000. But this dropped by about 6.5% this year. One Silicon Valley trained entrepreneur who spent 25 years overseas before returning, says there's an opportunity to be part of the growth of Southeast Asia's digital economy. He's started an academy here to groom IT talent.
We're starting in Singapore because I'm Singaporean and it's just easier to start a business in Singapore for Singaporean. There's also a strong demand for software engineers that's unmet in the market in Singapore. And so I feel like there is opportunity for me to contribute because the market needs more software engineers. I can build a team to train software engineers. And so we are essentially filling the gap in the market.
While the makeup of the returnees is still unclear, an economist says he sees little impact on Singapore's internationalization efforts if most of them are students. But the situation would be different for working professionals.
We're seeing, I think, a lot of tendencies that countries are going to become more insular, both because they're worried about the risk of COVID-19 transmission from imported cases, but also I think because the sense very much is that with shrinking global economy and a shrinking pie, countries want to reserve that for their own citizens. It is not a very different conversation happening abroad from the same conversation in Singapore.